The story of Dagestan is not written in ink, but in the violent upheaval of the Earth's crust and the patient persistence of water. To enter this land is to step into a vertical laboratory of evolution, a place where the collision of the Arabian and Eurasian plates has buckled the landscape into a chaotic masterpiece of ridges, plateaus, and abysses. This is the Mountain of Tongues, but before it was a mosaic of cultures, it was a masterpiece of geology. We begin our cinematic journey at the highest reaches of the Eastern Caucasus, where the border peaks stand as silent sentinels over the transition from Europe to Asia. At heights exceeding 4,000 meters, such as the formidable summit of Mount Bazarduzu, the world is reduced to its most basic elements: rock, ice, and thin, crystalline air. Here, the atmosphere is so transparent that the curvature of the Earth feels visible, and the silence is so heavy it rings in the ears. These peaks are the crown of Dagestan, a sterile yet majestic realm where glaciers cling to shadows and the sun bleaches the stone to a blinding white. Descending from these jagged summits, the camera drifts over the alpine meadows. This is the kingdom of the Caucasian Tur, a creature that embodies the spirit of the heights. Their massive, ridged horns are a testament to the harsh beauty of their environment. In the spring, these meadows undergo a metamorphosis, exploding into a carpet of endemic flora: the primula, the gentian, and the rare Caucasian rhododendron. These plants have adapted to the intense ultraviolet radiation and the sudden, brutal shifts in temperature, hugging the ground to avoid the biting winds. The soil here is thin, a mere skin over the ancient limestone, yet it supports a life cycle that has remained unchanged for millennia. As the snow melts, thousands of seasonal streams begin their descent, gathering strength and speed, carving the first tiny grooves into the mountain's face, grooves that will eventually become the terrifying canyons of the interior. The transition from the high peaks to the middle mountain zone is marked by the appearance of the Great Plateaus. The Kunzak Plateau is a geographical anomaly that defies the typical jagged logic of the Caucasus. It is a vast, flat expanse of emerald green, elevated 2,000 meters above sea level, ending abruptly in a sheer drop that plunges hundreds of meters into the Tsolotlinsky Canyon. Standing on the edge of this abyss, one feels the true scale of Dagestani nature. The Tobot and Itliatli waterfalls leap from the plateau's edge, their waters turning into silver dust before they hit the floor of the canyon. In the winter, these falls freeze into massive translucent ice pillars, transforming the canyon into a cathedral of frozen motion. This is a landscape of the lost world, where the verticality creates isolated microclimates. Deep within these canyons, the air is still and humid, a stark contrast to the wind-whipped plateaus above. Moving deeper into the heart of the region, we encounter the Sulak Canyon, a scar on the earth so deep it rivals the greatest natural wonders of the world. At a depth of 1,920 meters, it is a vertical museum of the planet's history. The walls are a textbook of stratification, showing millions of years of sediment from the ancient Tethys Ocean. The Sulak River at the bottom is a vein of neon turquoise, a color so bright it seems artificial, caused by the unique mineral composition of the glacial runoff and the way the light refracts through its crystalline purity. The canyon is home to the Eurasian griffon vulture, whose 3-meter wingspan allows it to ride the thermals rising from the depths. From a bird's eye view, the canyon is a labyrinth of shadows and light, a place where the sheer scale of the rock makes the presence of man seem like a fleeting whisper. But the mountains are only one side of the Dagestani coin. To the north and east, the landscape collapses into the Caspian Depression, leading us to one of the most mysterious natural features on the continent, the Saricum sand dune. Rising 400 meters from the steppe, this massive mountain of golden sand is a geological enigma. It is the largest isolated dune in Eurasia, a piece of the Sahara transposed onto the Caucasus. The origin of Saricum is still a subject of scientific debate, but its presence creates a radical shift in biodiversity. Here, the alpine flora is replaced by desert-hardy species, the astragalus and the wormwood. The wildlife shifts too. The dunes are home to the Mediterranean tortoise and the sunwatcher lizard, creatures that have adapted to the scorching heat of the sand, which can reach 60 degrees Celsius in the midday sun. Saricum is a place of shifting shapes and sensory deprivation, where the wind erases footprints as soon as they are made, and the horizon is a blur of heat and dust. As we move south along the coast, the desert gives way to the impossible lushness of the summer forest. This is Russia's only subtropical liana forest, a dense prehistoric jungle located at a latitude where such ecosystems shouldn't exist. The Samur Delta is fed by the cold waters of the mountains, but tempered by the humid breath of the Caspian Sea. The result is a botanical wonderland. Giant oaks, elms, and walnuts are draped in thick, woody lianas that reach up to the canopy like the rigging of a ghost ship. The floor of the forest is a damp, mossy twilight, where rare orchids bloom, and the endangered Caspian lotus thrives in the quiet lagoons. This forest is a sanctuary for migratory birds traveling from the Arctic to Africa, a vital green bridge in a world of stone and water. The sound of the Samur forest is a symphony of rustling leaves, birdsong, and the distant, rhythmic pulse of the Caspian surf. The Caspian Sea itself is the final character in this drama. The world's largest landlocked body of water, it is a sea of contradictions. Its water is brackish, and its levels are governed by geological cycles that remain poorly understood. The coastline of Dagestan is a frontier of black volcanic sand and limestone cliffs. In the Agrakhan Peninsula, the sea meets the land in a complex network of reeds and marshes. This is the domain of the Dalmatian pelican and the greater flamingo. In the winter, the northern reaches of the Caspian can freeze, trapping the sea in a sheet of ice, while in the south, the Samur forest remains green. It is a sea that feels like an ocean, with storms that can conjure 6-meter waves. Yet it is a closed system, an isolated evolution of sturgeon and seals that have lived here since the sea was cut off from the global oceans millions of years ago. Returning to the interior, we must address the stone witnesses of Dagestan, the abandoned villages like Gamsutl and Gur. These are not just human ruins, they are part of the geology. Built from the same stone as the cliffs they occupy, these settlements are being slowly reclaimed by the mountain. In Gamsutl, the houses are carved into the rock, and as the roofs fail, the alpine grasses move back in. The village is becoming a cliff once again. This process of decay and rebirth is a central theme of the Dagestani wilderness. The mountains do not just host life, they consume it, shape it, and eventually take it back. The Karadakh Gorge, known as the Gate of Wonders, exemplifies this power. It is a split in the mountain so narrow that 2 people cannot walk abreast in some places. Yet, the walls rise nearly 200 meters. It was carved by a tiny stream that during flash floods becomes a thundering force of destruction, carrying boulders the size of cars through the narrow passage. The climate of Dagestan is a vertical staircase. In a single day, one can travel from the humid, subtropical heat of the Samur Delta to the temperate forests of the foothills, and finally to the Arctic tundra of the high peaks. This diversity creates a biological density that is rare in the northern hemisphere. The Dagestani highlands serve as a refuge for species that disappeared elsewhere during the last ice age. The Caucasian leopard, though critically endangered and elusive, still roams these ridges, a phantom predator in a landscape of shadows. The biodiversity is mirrored in the mineral wealth of the soil. The region is rich in thermal springs and mineral waters, which bubble up from the depths, creating colorful travertine terraces and healing pools that have been known for centuries. As the sun sets over the Caucasus, the light performs a final act of transformation. The gray limestone of the Guneb Plateau turns a deep, glowing orange, and the Sulak Canyon disappears into a pool of indigo. The stars here are piercingly bright, unpolluted by the lights of the distant plains. The night sky over the mountains feels closer, a reminder of the altitude and the purity of the air. The nocturnal life of the mountains begins to stir. The eagle owl with its haunting cry and the small rodents of the scree slopes. The mountains at night are a different world, cold and indifferent, yet possessed of a terrifying beauty. To summarize the nature of Dagestan is to attempt to summarize the history of the Earth itself. It is a land of extremes where every geological era has left its mark. It is the golden dunes of Sarikun against the blue of the Caspian, the white glaciers of Bazaduzu against the green of the Samur, the turquoise of the Sulak against the gray of the Kunzach cliffs. It is a place where the landscape is the protagonist, a powerful brooding presence that dictates the terms of existence for everything that lives within it. The documentary eye can only capture a fraction of this reality, for the true essence of Dagestan lies in the scale that the camera cannot fully translate. The feeling of insignificance when standing at the base of a 2-kilometer canyon, or the sense of ancient time when touching a fossilized shell at the top of a mountain. Dagestan remains one of the last great wildernesses, a fortress of nature that has resisted the homogenization of the modern world. Its canyons are deeper, its mountains more rugged, and its forests more mysterious than almost anywhere else in Eurasia. As we conclude this odyssey, the camera pulls back, rising above the clouds that often ring the peaks like a white sea. We see the ridges fading into the distance, wave after wave of stone receding toward the horizon. This is the land of mountains, a vertical kingdom where the earth speaks in the language of stone and water, and where the spirit of the wilderness remains, as it has for eons, absolute and unbroken. The winter in Dagestan is a season of architectural transformation. In the high-altitude Auls, the snow doesn't just fall, it entombs. The mountains become a monochrome world where the only color is the deep blue of the shadows and the occasional flash of a golden eagle's feathers. The ice in the canyons becomes a structural element. In the Salta underground waterfall, the water freezes mid-air, creating a labyrinth of ice caves that explorers navigate with awe. This is the time when the mountain people retreat to their hearths and the wild animals move down to the lower slopes. The tur huddle in the lee of the cliffs, their metabolism slowing to survive the caloric scarcity. Spring is a violent awakening. The sound of cracking ice in the gorges is like gunfire. The rivers, which were mere trickles in January, become roaring monsters by May. The Avakoisu and the Karakoisu rivers carry the meltwater of 1,000 peaks. their power harnessed by massive hydroelectric dams that look like alien structures inserted into the ancient rock. The dams create vast artificial lakes, like the Irgene Reservoir, where the still water reflects the surrounding mountains with such clarity that the horizon disappears. These man-made emerald mirrors have changed the local microclimates, adding a layer of humidity to the once arid valleys and allowing for the growth of fruit orchards where before there was only scrub. The summer is the season of the Saricum furnace. While the mountains remain cool, the plains and the dunes vibrate with heat. This is when the Caspian Sea becomes a magnet for life. The sturgeon, the ancient kings of the Caspian, move through the brackish depths. These fish, which have survived since the time of the dinosaurs, are a living link to the Tethys Ocean. Their existence is threatened, yet in the protected waters of the Dagestani reserves, they find a final stronghold. The summer also brings the dust storms from the east, which cast a hazy cinematic glow over the landscape, making the mountains look like a series of watercolor washes. Autumn is the season of fire and gold. In the Samur forest, the maple and walnut trees turn a brilliant yellow, and the lianas become veins of crimson. The air is crisp, and the visibility is at its peak. This is the best time to see the shadow of the mountain, a phenomenon where the triangular peak of a mountain is projected onto the morning mist of the valley below, creating a pyramid of shadow that seems to float in the air. It is a season of harvest, not just for the people, but for the animals. The bears in the upper forests gorge themselves on wild berries and nuts, preparing for the long sleep. Every stone in Dagestan has a story. In the Gunib region, the limestone is so white it looks like marble. This was the final stronghold of Imam Shamil and the natural fortress of the Gunib Plateau, with its single entrance and sheer walls, is a testament to how geography dictates the course of human conflict. But beyond the history, there is the raw physical presence of the rock. Geologists come here to study the Dagestan Fold, a series of tectonic ripples that are visible for miles. The earth here is folded like a piece of paper, with layers of rock standing vertically, pointing toward the sky. The rivers are the ultimate sculptors. The Sulak River doesn't just flow, it grinds. The suspended silt acts as sandpaper, wearing down the granite and limestone over millions of years. This process is visible in the pots carved into the riverbeds, perfectly circular holes worn into the solid rock by spinning pebbles. These details, though small, are the building blocks of the massive landscape. The Dagestani nature is a fractal. The same patterns of erosion and growth that you see in a single stone are repeated in the scale of the entire mountain range. As we reach the final character count, we must reflect on the fragility of this majesty. Despite its ruggedness, the ecosystem of Dagestan is a delicate balance. The Samur forest depends on the specific water table of the river. The glaciers of Bazarduzu are sensitive to the global warming of the atmosphere. The sturgeon of the Caspian depend on the purity of the mountain runoff. Protecting this land is not just about preserving a view. It is about preserving a complex, vertical engine of life that has functioned for millions of years. Dagestan is a reminder that the earth is alive, that it is moving, and that it is capable of creating beauty on a scale that humbles the human imagination. It is a place of pilgrimage for those who seek the raw, unedited truth of the natural world. Here, on the edge of the world, between the deepest canyon and the highest peak, the Earth speaks its most profound truths.